When one surveys the many challenges that we face around the world, it's easy to grow complacent, or to abandon the notion that progress can be shared. But I want to repeat what I said last year in Prague. When nations and peoples allow themselves to be defined by their differences, the gulf between them widens. When we fail to pursue peace, then it stays forever beyond our grasp. This majestic city of Prague is in many ways a monument to human progress. And this ceremony is a testament to the truth that old adversaries can forge new partnerships. I could not help but be struck the other day by the words of Arkady Briesch. Who helped build the Soviet Union's first atom bomb. At the age of 92, having lived to see the horrors of a world war and the divisions of a Cold War. He said, "We hope humanity will reach the moment when there is no need for nuclear weapons." When there is peace and calm in the world. It's easy to dismiss those voices. But doing so risks repeating the horrors of the past, while ignoring the history of human progress. The pursuit of peace and calm and cooperation among nations. Is the work of both leaders and peoples in the 21st century. For we must be as persistent and passionate in our pursuit of progress as any who would stand in our way. Once again, President Medvedev, thank you for your extraordinary leadership. Address by Medvedev, deleted text and audio. President Obama. From missiles launched from third countries. We recognize, however, that Russia has a significant interest in this issue. And what we've committed to doing is to engaging in a significant discussion not only bilaterally but also having discussions with our European allies and others about a framework in which we can potentially cooperate. On issues of missile defense in a way that preserves U.S. national security interests. Preserves Russia's national security interests, and allows us to guard against a rogue missile from any source. So I'm actually optimistic that having completed this treaty, which signals our strong commitment to a reduction in overall nuclear weapons, and that I believe is going to strengthen the nuclear non-proliferation treaty regime. That sends a signal around the world that the United States and Russia are prepared to once again take leadership in moving in the direction of reducing reliance on nuclear weapons and preventing the spread of nuclear weapons. As well as nuclear materials, that we will have built the kind of trust not only between presidents, but also between governments and between peoples that allows us to move forward in a constructive way. I've repeatedly said that we will not do anything that endangers or limits my ability as Commander-in-Chief to protect the American people. And we think that missile defense can be an important component of that. But we also want to make clear that the approach that we've taken in no way is intended to change the strategic balance between the United States and Russia. And I'm actually confident that, moving forward, as we have these discussions, it will be part of a broader set of discussions about, for example, how we can take tactical nuclear weapons out of theater. the possibilities of us making more significant cuts not only in deployed but also non-deployed missiles. There are a whole range of issues that I think that we can make significant progress on. I'm confident that this is an important first step in that direction. President Medvedev's response, deleted text and audio. Reporter's question in Russian and translated to English. I have two questions. To each of the presidents, 1. The first is to Mr. Obama. Moscow and Washington. Not for the first time, agree on a reduction of strategic offensive arms, but as you have mentioned. Russia and the United States are not the only countries having nuclear weapons. So how specifically can the documents achieved well? Similar to today's document on limitation on nuclear arms, how soon we will see others sign this document? And will you move along this track together with Russia? And to the President of the Russian Federation, you have mentioned the fact that sometimes there's an impression that Moscow and Washington are unable to agree on anything else but a mutual reduction. Of arms. So will we see any things that will counter such a statement? And what will the agreement be? President Obama, first of all, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, the United States and Russia account for 90% of the world's nuclear weapons. And given this legacy of the Cold War, it is critical for us to show significant leadership. That, I think, is what we've begun to do with this follow-on START treaty. Other countries are going to have to be making a series of decisions. about how they approach the issue of their nuclear weapons stockpiles. And as I've repeatedly said, and I'm sure Dmitry feels the same way with respect to his country. We are going to preserve our nuclear deterrent so long as other countries have nuclear weapons. And we are going to make sure that that stockpile is safe and secure and effective. But I do believe that as we look out into the 21st century, that more and more countries will come to recognize that the most important factors in providing security and peace to their citizens will depend on their economic growth. Will depend on the capacity of the international community to resolve conflicts. It will depend on having a strong conventional military that can protect our nation's borders. And that nuclear weapons increasingly in an interdependent world will make less and less sense as the cornerstone of security policy. But that's going to take some time, and I think each country is going to have to make its own determinations. The key is for the United States and Russia to show leadership on this front because we are so far ahead of every nation with respect to possession of nuclear weapons. The primary concerns that we identified in a recent nuclear posture review. Essentially a declaratory statement of view. S policy with respect to nuclear weapons, said that our biggest concerns right now are actually the issues of nuclear terrorism and nuclear proliferation, more countries obtaining nuclear weapons. Those weapons being less controllable, less secure, nuclear materials floating around the globe. And that's going to be a major topic of the discussion that we have in Washington on Monday. The United States and Russia have a history already. A decade-long history of locking down loose nuclear materials. I believe that our ability to move forward already on sanctions with respect to North Korea. The intense discussions that we're having with respect to Iran will increasingly send a signal to countries. That are not abiding by their nuclear non-proliferation treaty obligations, that they will be isolated. All those things will go towards sending a general message that we need to move in a new direction. And I think leadership on that front is important. Last point I'll make, I will just anticipate or coach the question about other areas of cooperation. Our respective Foreign Ministers, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and Foreign Minister Lavrov, have been heading a bilateral commission that has been working intensively on a whole range of issues. And President Medvedev and myself identified a series of key areas on the economic front. In trade relations, the potential for joint cooperation on various industries. How we can work on innovation and sparking economic growth. We've already worked together closely in the G20, I think we can build on that bilaterally. There are issues of counterterrorism that are absolutely critical to both of us. And I just want to repeat how horrified all of America was at the recent attacks in Moscow. We recognize that that's a problem that can happen anywhere at any time. And it's important for Russia and the United States to work closely on those issues. And then there are people-to-people contacts and figuring out how we can make sure that there's more. interaction and exchange between our two countries on a whole range of issues within civil society. So I'm very optimistic that we're going to continue to make progress on all of these fronts. But I think we should take pride in this particular accomplishment because it speaks not only to the security of our two nations but also the security of the world as a whole. President Medvedev's response, deleted text and audio. Reporter's question, thank you, President Medvedev and President Obama. For President Obama first, could you elaborate on how the year-long negotiations over the New START treaty have advanced U.S. cooperation with Russia on Iran, and give us a sense of when you will pursue move forward in the United Nations and next week with sanctions discussions, and what those sanctions might look like. And for President Medvedev, could you address whether Russia could accept sanctions? Against Iran, specifically dealing with its energy industry and energy sector? Thank you. President Obama, discussions about sanctions on Iran have been moving forward over the last several weeks. In fact, they've been moving forward over the last several months. We're going to start seeing some ramped up negotiations taking place in New York in the coming weeks. And my expectation is that we are going to be able to secure strong, tough sanctions on Iran this spring. Now, I think there are two ways in which these START negotiations have advanced or at least influenced Russia. Discussions around Iran. The first is obviously that President Medvedev and I have been able to build up a level of trust, and our teams have been able to work together in such a way that we can be frank. We can be clear, and that help to facilitate, then, our ability. For example, to work together jointly to present to Iran reasonable options that would allow it to clearly distance itself from nuclear weapons and pursue a path of peaceful nuclear energy.